Hello to everybody who can't cancel again. It's Beautiful Anonymous. 1 hour, one phone call, no names, no holds barred.
I'd rather go one-on-one. I think it'll be more fun, and I'll get to know you, and you'll get to know me.
Hi everybody, Chris Gethard here. And if you're somebody who just wants to get to the phone call, I totally get it. The intro has info on how you can contribute to our magazine. Also has info on how you can sign up at beautifulanonymous.com. So check those out. But if you just want to skip all that and get to the phone call, I would skip about 12 minutes. If you skip about 12 minutes, it should take you right up to the phone call. Enjoy it. Hi, everybody. My name's Chris Gethard, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Beautiful Anonymous. I feel really lucky that I get to be here today. We've got a call for you that something very unusual happens, something that's almost never happened in the history of the show happens, and I'm going to discuss it a little bit before we even get to the call, because we just recorded it. My head is spinning a little bit. I'm thinking a lot about what this show is. I'm thinking about what my role is and my responsibilities are as the host. There's a lot to discuss. Before we get into that, I want to let everybody know that I have a whole bunch of road dates. I'm going to be going to Newark, New Jersey. I have a Laughing Together benefit show in Brooklyn on June 13th. That show's going to be amazing, and it's raising money for a great cause. So Brooklyn, I hope you come out. Then I'm going on tour with the great Eddie Pepitone and Keegan Tyndall, who's a young lion of New Jersey comedy. June 30th in Woodstock, October 3rd, Garwood, New Jersey. Oh, no, I'm missing a whole bunch. June 29th, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. August 13th, Kansas City. St. Louis, August 14th. Milwaukee, August 15th. I'll be right outside of Detroit on August 17th. And then in October, Somerville, Mass., that Jersey date. October 4th in Baltimore at the Otto Bar, which will be an incredible show. October 6th in Hamden, Connecticut. And I have a bunch of other tour dates coming up that I'll be announcing soon too. But again, I usually tell you to go to chrisgeth.com. That should redirect to this site. If it doesn't, you can go to punchup.live/chrisgethard. That's what I'll be using as my website now. Not only can you find the tour dates there, but you can watch the Half My Life special for free, which is awesome. And you can input your email address, and when I come to your area, it should alert you. And you can even put in your zip code and tell me where I should go. And I would love, love, love to come to you, both for stand-up shows, and at some point soon, we're going to have to start doing some more Beautiful Anonymous live shows. It's been a while, and I think we need to go out and touch base with that community, because the last really big community event we did was the Beautiful Cononymous, which was a year ago. That's so wild to me. That was such a fun weekend of my life. I got to meet so many people who have been a part of the show, got to put faces to voices, and got to meet listeners, and it was an incredible experience. It was an absolutely incredible experience, and what a cool thing to think about it being a year ago. And guess what? For everybody who signed up at beautifulanonymous.com, the bonus content this week is actually going to be some audio that we have from the con that has not yet been aired. I'll go ahead and get this out of the way. The call is shorter than usual. The caller said it was because she had a scheduling thing. I had the gut instinct that perhaps I overstepped my bounds and pried a little too much, and things were getting a little too real. Caller, you'll hear, we talk about it a little bit, and then things end abruptly. I'm sitting here feeling a little, I don't want to say rattled, but my head is spinning, because I'm wondering if I dropped the ball as the host of the show this week, and if I pushed a little too hard. I think that's probably my role here, is to kind of pull at the edges of the story, but there is a high percentage chance that I made things uncomfortable enough for the caller, or the caller was asked to deal with things from an angle that she wasn't anticipating approaching it from, and skedaddled. And I will look forward to your opinions on if that's true or not. But I also would like to think that part of why many of the listeners of this show have come to trust me is because I am the type of person that will feel guilty if I did overstep boundaries, and will wonder whether or not that's the case, and does take that seriously. But I think all of you will have opinions. So instead of our usual extension of the show with 5 questions, what we have is some really great audio that we've been wondering how to release this in a way that made sense, and this does offer up an opportunity. We taped so many calls at Beautiful Cononymous. We also did some on-stage follow-ups with past callers. Those will probably be coming out this month for everybody who signs up at the Touchtone tier of beautifulanonymous.com. But what we also have is this really great audio with some people who have been a huge part of the show, including the High Priestess, Andrea Quinn, including our former producer, Anita Flores, and including someone who, if you are a longtime listener of the show, you know was such a huge part of the backbone of the show, especially during an era where the show grew wildly and unexpectedly, and I needed someone to help be there steering the ship, and that's Jared O'Connell. Andrea is a huge part of the show right now. Anita was such a huge part of the show. I don't think either of them would be surprised nor offended for me to say that the show probably wouldn't exist without Jared, because I would have crashed and burned it in a panic when the numbers exploded back when that happened. And he was such a steady hand showing me how to do this. Harry Nelson, John Delore, Greta Cohn in the earliest days from our first taping. Huge parts of the show, but I don't think anyone who listens and anyone who's worked on the show at any point would say that it is unfair for us to always thank Jared in particular. So this is, we did a Q&A where I was able to ask Andrea and Anita and Jared questions about what it's like producing Beautiful Anonymous. The people there in the room were able to ask further questions, and it was great. But it's also a little bit out of context, and it would be a little random to just drop it into the feed. But now that we have a day where we have our bonus content set up and no bonus content to give you, it's the absolute perfect reason on the 1-year anniversary of the con to pull some of this audio from the con and drop it right into your lap. So that's a nice historical artifact that you get to have now. And Andrea just, in our shared doc, as I'm saying this, said, as I said, I don't think Andrea would be offended for me to shout out Jared. She said he literally taught me how to be good at this. Like, that's how I feel about the show, as Jared kind of taught me how to be good at it too, even when I was already in it. So everybody who's signed up at beautifulanonymous.com, enjoy it. And I love being able to push what we give you. I will also say, bold face, that the signups have severely slowed down, and maybe they've maxed out. It's up 766, but you'll remember last week I said we got 765, not bad. This week we got 766. So there's only one new person. And hey, welcome to that new person. I can poke around on the website right now and say, it looks like your name's Jamie. I value you. Jamie from Pennsylvania. Thanks so much for signing up. It's rad that you signed up. Every person matters. I don't want to get caught in a world where algorithms are just how many followers do you have, how many numbers. I want quality over quantity, but quality and quantity would be nice. But that being said, happy to throw something interesting at you. Also, I have to say, everybody who's been mailing in things, we're going to make a Beautiful Anonymous magazine. It's going to be really weird and really cool. We've gotten such a funny assemblage of unpredictable things. People sending random photographs, people sending unsigned printouts of stories of dark things from their lives, postcards from all different parts of the world. It's been so cool. I love going down to the post office every day. I got something today that made me laugh so hard. Someone prepped something. The person who's listening, you'll know, they sent a good copy for publication, and then some of the attempted copies that didn't print right for my kid to play with, which is much appreciated. And this magazine's going to be awesome. And if you want to send in any random thing at all, whether it's a story that you want to type up and print out, postcard, random art, weird experiments, I'll shout out the person who did the emoji-based thing. It made me laugh very hard. There's all sorts of weird creative stuff showing up. You can send it to Chris Gethard, P.O. Box 972, New Vernon, New Jersey, 07976. That is Chris Gethard, P.O. Box 972, New Vernon, New Jersey, 07976. So, this week's call will be a divisive one. People are going to debate the ending and what really happened. I've already pointed that out. Why would I feel nervous? Because you're going to hear, in some ways, this call is very light and very fun. In some ways, it's just about going on life's great adventures, about living in a unique way, living in a way that's non-standard. And I'm always supportive of those stories. But this caller is looking to move on with life in a very, very specific way. And you'll hear that at some point, I do mention something that a lot of you are going to notice, which is that the caller laughs a lot at things that to me actually sounded stressful. And when I asked her about that is when things sort of changed. And where I'm not sure if I handled it correctly. And I hope I did. But I don't always. And who knows? You'll all have your opinions over there at the Facebook group and Twitter and whatnot. And the Instagram comments and all those places. What I do know is that I like when people go on adventures. I think that's, that was actually what you just heard. That beeping, if you heard it, was actually the call would have ended. It didn't. Wow, that was cool. I forgot to turn off the clock because it didn't end how it usually does. People should go on adventures. People should live lifestyles that exist outside the mainstream. But also some of us are doing that when maybe some of it's driven by fear. And if it's driven by fear, is it totally a choice? We're living in strange times. We're living in real strange times. And as you can tell, my head is spinning a little bit because I don't know if I handled this one the right way. Let me know what you think. Most of all, enjoy the call.
Thank you for calling Beautiful Anonymous. A beeping noise will indicate when you are on the show with the host.
Caller, hello.
Hello. Hi. Nice to talk to you.
It's nice to talk to you too. How are you? How's things?
Well, I was telling Andrea, things are, they're fine. I have a school bus that I'm renovating to a tiny home, which is super cool, I guess. It's super cool. But it's this like weird dream that I've always had ever since I was a teenager. And like my mom used to make fun of me, like, really, your biggest dream is to live in a van down by the river? And I was like, yeah, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I have this bus and a super handy husband who like builds houses. So I was like, yeah, this is going to happen. Well, now I've had the bus for 3 years and nothing has happened. And so we agreed, like 2024, that's the year. Like this is the year. We're going to do it. We're going to make it happen. And the weather where I live is finally turning around. I mean, I guess it snowed yesterday, so maybe not. But, I think it's turning around. And my husband broke his foot. And so now we're like six weeks out, maybe, if he doesn't have to have surgery.
Oof. That's no good. What's it take to live in a bus these days? It's like almost like fate or karma wants you to remain in a home.
I know.
It's almost like the universe is sending you all sorts of signals to not go live in a bus or something.
I really think that's the case because, like, he didn't fall off a roof.
Okay, that's fair.
He jumped. Well, willingly jumped off a roof.
It almost sounds like your husband doesn't want to go live in a bus. Almost sounds like he's intentionally injuring himself so as to not have to live in a bus.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Maybe. That might be the case. So, now that's my life. I have an almost 2-year-old daughter and now a husband that can't do much of anything while he's on crutches.
And is the plan for the family to live on the bus full time?
Yeah. Not to like traveling in it would be super fun. We've got 3 dogs. I know you're not a dog person, but we have 3 dogs, and it's hard to travel with dogs. As I'm sure you can imagine, even not being a dog person.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
having your home on wheels that you can travel in would be ideal, because then the dogs can go with us. So, kind of like an RV, but I don't know. I kind of think RVs are a little lame. So like a bus is a little cooler.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the plan is to move out of, I never intended to live where I live right now. we can say that. But I moved, I grew up where I live now, and I moved back here a few years ago, and that was never my intention. And so there's an opportunity, there's some land that a family has in a state that I would like to live in. And so that's like the push for the bus, so that the family can live in the bus in a state that is not this state.
And you mentioned that your kiddo is almost 2?
Yeah. 17 months. So still a little longer. Still a little bit to go until she's 2. But to keep it, yes, she's almost 2.
Now, I want to hear all about how you came to have the bus. I want to hear about your plans for renovating the bus. I want to think about this bus life. Before we get into it, I do want to ask a question that's a little more serious that I bet is immediately on people's minds, which is what's the plan for schooling? And I think on a broader level,
Yeah.
like there's something to be said for you're opting into something that is a less standard lifestyle, right? I hate the word normal. I don't think the word normal is a very useful word.
Yeah.
But this life that's maybe a little more transient or a little more specific, and you've got a little one who is not opting into it as an adult,
Totally.
but growing up in it. And I'm sure you've thought a lot about that.
I have thought a lot about it. And, I think the less exciting answer for listeners is that it's temporary. The goal would eventually be to build a house on this family property that's, I'm trying to choose my words wisely so that I'm not, 1, offending people, and 2, outing myself. But, I live in a very red state, but a very blue part of that state. And, I'm very close to a blue state that my family has property in. So, eventually the goal would be to build a house out there. I have a farming background. I was telling Andrea while we were waiting for you to jump in, that I've been listening to the show since Ron Paul's baby on This American Life. And because I used to farm, and I was out in the field or the orchard by myself for, 8 to 10 hours a day. And that's kind of the goal, is to get back to that little bit simpler life. We're in pretty big-ish city. Although, I mean, I think if I said the state that I live in, people would be like, "Oh, that's farming land. What do you mean? Why are you trying to get out of that?" But it's like big ag. It's the it's the potatoes that McDonald's gets. It's really big ag, and that's not. I'm trying to get away from that. So So I think a little less exciting of an answer than what people might think. Like, no, I'm not going to be homeschooling my daughter. I do plan on getting her enrolled in a school in this small town that we would be moving to, and it just in the bus. But yeah, I mean, I've got a little bit of time. I'm really fortunate in that I have family close by and family that offers to watch my daughter often. And so we haven't had to do daycare or even really think about doing preschool. She has extracurricular activities that she does for, that social component. But yeah, that's a long-winded answer to that question.
I love it. It's a thoughtful answer. And so it sounds to me like the bus is a dream, and the bus is something that eventually is going to be your travel vehicle, your vacation vehicle, but there will be a window there where the bus allows you the mobility to get to this area where you want to live without needing the financial overhead to buy a house right out of the gate or build a house before you move, that it allows you to get where you want to go first.
Totally. Yeah. It allows me to get where we want to go. It allows me to not be encroaching in my family's space that lives on this property. I mean, although it's my mom's property and she would love for me to come and live in her home. Yeah. I would love to live with my mom too. But there's just, there's men in our lives that make things a little hard.
I hear you. So let's talk about this bus itself. How large is the bus? How does one procure a bus? And what are your plans on how you're going to alter the bus?
It's a big bus. And I'm sure, and I don't know how familiar you are with the world of buses. I mean, not school buses, but renovated buses. I know you have these niches that you are interested in and have a lot of knowledge about. And so I don't know if Skoolie life, which is what people call it, people in the know, I don't feel like I'm that knowledgeable about it, so I'm probably not going to say that. But there's a whole world of people that live in converted school buses, and they meet up out in the desert, like Burning Man, but not. And it's a whole thing, and it's. Sorry,
is that the little one?
My daughter in the car. That is the little one. Yep. We're driving around because we're at the point in life where she doesn't like to nap unless we're in the car.
Yeah.
So, you have a little one, so I don't know if you have that.
Yeah, my guy just turned 5.
But,
so I live in a post-nap reality, but this is bringing back some very recent memories for sure.
Yeah, I love the nap reality, and also it's a little hard when your day is revolved around when a nap is going to happen, and if a nap happens, and if a nap doesn't happen. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. but usually it's a big cry in the car before a nap. And I think I was going to see if I needed to pull over, but I think that's where we're at. Yeah. So there's a whole community of people who live in Skoolies, and I love that. I love the idea of like very niche communities where you can come together and share ideas and stuff like that. And unfortunately, like so far, my experience with this community has not been super welcoming. And there's a fire truck passing me. There's probably going to be people in the comments, if this does get aired, that are like, what are you talking about? This is like the nicest, most open community ever. And that might be true. It just has not been my experience. And I don't know if part of that is the plans that we have for the bus. My husband's very tall, so doing a roof raise on the bus has been something that we kind of floated. I don't know how familiar you are with what that entails.
It doesn't sound like an easy thing to pull off.
No, no, it's not. And so that I think kind of is where we've pumped the brakes a little bit, and where we're like, okay, do we raise the roof? Do we not raise the roof? Mm-hmm. I mean, seems like a no-brainer because my husband is really tall.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It is a big undertaking. We're basically cutting it in half and then using jacks to jack it up, and yeah, hoping that our welding skills are top notch.
And why does the idea of raising the roof cause drama in the Skoolie community?
I don't think it's so much that it's drama as it's expensive. It's hard to do. And there's this thought that like, well, maybe if you aren't willing, so I'd met with someone in my area to assist us with the roof raise because it is out of our wheelhouse. And their quote was astronomical. It's like there's no way. I've watched a lot of videos, a lot of YouTube University. I think I have a lot of friends in the trade world. I think we could figure this out. But I don't know, maybe we can't. And so I think the drama, if you will, is that like, well, if you're not willing to shell out the thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to have it professionally roof raised, why didn't you buy a bus that already had it done? Because there are people that raise the roof and then they sell the gutted bus. But this was like I felt like this was like a unicorn of a bus that we found. And so I was like, no, this is the one. We've got to get it. And who cares if the roof isn't raised? We'll figure that out. But I don't know. Now, there's probably people that are going to be like listening to this and be like, lady, this is your dream. I don't think your husband actually shares this dream with you.
Do you think that's true?
I don't know. He doesn't say that. He says it's his dream. And I mean, like, we're in therapy, and this topic comes up in therapy about the bus, and he says there that it's, it's his dream too. So I don't know. I mean, but yeah, is it so far off? Is it time to just sell it? Was it just a pipe dream? I don't know.
Where do you plan on
That's
sleeping
where
on
I'm
the
at
bus?
with
What
it.
are
I don't
the
know.
what are the sleeping arrangements? Do you build out bunk beds? Do you build out
In a bed.
a bed area in the back? You rip
Sleep
out
in a
some of the
bed.
seats in the back?
It doesn't have any seats at all. It's already gutted.
Totally
it's already
gutted.
insulated.
So you,
It's already wired.
are you, you
Mhm.
building a portion as a bedroom for you and another portion as a bedroom for the little one?
Yeah. I mean, that would be probably the goal, because I haven't ruled out having another kiddo yet.
Mhm.
But I don't know. My husband is an only child. I'm an only child. He's like, we should have another one that's really close in age. And I'm like, this one's perfect.
How about a kitchen? What about a kitchen area?
So, yeah.
Will there be a kitchen installed on the bus?
Oh, yeah. There'd be a kitchen. I've seen bus layouts where the bathroom is like very close to the kitchen, and we're not doing that. We have and I feel really fortunate that we found the bus that we did, and it has like under storage, and so we can take out a portion of the flooring so that for the bathroom, and put in like a shower that my husband would be able to stand up in, because again, like I said, he's really tall and he can't actually stand up fully straight in the bus. So at least he'd be able to stand up straight in the shower.
So we'll have a shower, and then do you take it to like RV sites
shower,
and use the water and power hookups at an RV site with a bus? Is that the type of thing?
You can. This one is registered as an RV, although the registration and insurance on it is like paused because it's like registered as non-operational while it's under construction. But the plan would actually be for it to be fully off-grid for at least a portion of time. So it has solar, it has gray water tanks and freshwater tanks. And then, so we would be able to hook it up to like RV parks, like what they call shore power. But then also it could be fully self-sustaining. Is kind of the vision. That's the goal. We have it feels so silly talking about it, because I'm like, why have we not done it? Why haven't we finished it? Because we have everything that it needs. Like we literally bought it from people who wanted to make it happen and then ended up moving to LA and sold it. And so it has all the material. It's got everything. Just needs a little bit of time and a little bit of motivation.
What do you think has been keeping you from getting over the finish line? We're going to pause there, because I just asked, what's stopping you from getting it over the finish line? And who knows, the caller might say, I don't have the appropriate goods and services in my life to facilitate the end of the process. Well, do I have good news for you? We have advertisers who sell goods and services. Check them out. Use the promo codes if you are so inclined. It really helps the show when you do, and we'll be right back. Hi, everybody. I'm so sincerely impressed by our newest advertiser, Delete Me. I'm going to tell you something about me. I'm going to open up a little bit, and I'm not trying to poke the bear, and I'm not trying to invite anything into my life, but I have lived as a public figure for a long time. I think people have picked up that the last few years, especially since my son was born, I had a renewed commitment to privacy. I have some regrets about how much I put myself and my personal info out there over the years. And I'll tell you though, you don't need to live as publicly as I have to know that your personal information, it lives all over the internet. And that personal data is wild. We're talking about your name, home address. People might be able to track down your social security number at times, your phone number, a lot of information that connects you to family members where their addresses come up. I have been in situations that did not feel totally safe. And that's a bummer to have to say. I think longtime listeners can probably think about it and go, oh, there was a point at which Chris started to be a little more buttoned up about certain things. And it was because of a particular situation that I was in where I felt like safety was being blurred. And like I said, you can even hear that I'm hedging the bets on this because what I don't want to do is reignite anything. But I had a situation where I didn't feel like my information was protected and where that might lead to my family being hassled or worse. And it's scary. It's a scary feeling. So that brings us to Delete Me, which can give you so much peace of mind. And I am so blown away by how thorough they are. I will tell you that because of this situation I had a few years ago, I have used services that aim to remove your private information from the internet. I have paid big money for those services. I can tell you that when I signed up for Delete Me, they found 21 different sites where you could still pay to get my address and phone number, and 24 sites, so 3 sites on top of it, that had other types of information about me or people connected to me. Now, the fact that I have already been in a situation scary enough that I paid big bucks to get that stuff deleted, my jaw was on the floor. They still managed to find 24 sites. What does that tell me, and what does that tell you? That Delete Me is thorough, they're protecting you, and I cannot speak highly enough of the system they have in place to help with this issue, because I've been through it and I thought that the job was done. And I think if you are someone who wants your personal information protected on the internet, there's not a debate. Delete Me is out here and they are crushing it, leading the charge. I've seen it for myself. They find and remove the personal information you don't want online. They make sure it stays off of the internet. It's a subscription service. They remove that info from all the people search databases out there. And in the process, that can help stop identity theft, doxing, phishing scams, all sorts of stuff. When you sign up, you provide them with the type of information you want deleted. Their experts get to work and they help you out. Okay, they send you regular privacy reports. That's what I received. I received my first privacy report. I said, they found 24 more of these sites and helped me out. And it's not just a one-time thing. They stay working for you. They monitor these situations. They keep removing the information that you don't want out there. Simply put, they do a lot of the hard work that helps you make sure that your family's personal info is off of the web. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me, now at a special discount for our listeners. Today, you get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/beautiful. Use the promo code beautiful at checkout. The only way to get 20% off. You go right now to joindeleteme.com. That's joindeleteme.com/beautiful. Enter the code beautiful at checkout. Joindeleteme.com/beautiful. The code is beautiful. 20% off. They are a great service, and I'm telling you, they fulfill every promise that they make. They did it for me. They'll do it for you too. Thanks again to everybody who sponsors the show. Now let's finish off the phone call. What do you think has been keeping you from getting over the finish line?
Well, I don't feel like I can do it all myself. I don't know how to. I built a bench once, and I built, garden beds. I built a greenhouse, but I've never built a house. So, I don't know. I don't think I can do it by myself, and also I don't want to. Like, I bought it with my husband, and we bought it before we got married. And it feels like it's like a project for us. And yeah, I don't know. But I mean, maybe I don't know. You know, I know there's a lot of people in my life that when they aren't sure how to do something, they're like super avoidant. Like they're just like, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. Or even if they do want to do it, they're like, no, I'm not going to do that. So maybe that's it. There's this like barrier of like the unknown. I don't know.
This is very fascinating to me. It's very fascinating.
Hi, little one. I mean, you know, it's a very specific lifestyle. It is. But yeah, it's one that I've always wanted, I guess. And there was a period of time where I was living somewhere, and I was living on a business partner's farm, and we were growing flowers for weddings and events, and doing farmers market and all kinds of stuff. And my housing was falling apart. I was renting a place from a total slumlord, and things just got really weird really fast, and I was not going to have a place to live. And my business partner had offered me a place to park a tiny home or a bus or an RV or something if I had that. And this was like 5 years ago, and I didn't have the bus. So I don't know, maybe there's a part of me that's like still chasing that dream. Now I'm like, I have the bus now. Like I'm ready to go and live on a property now. I don't know.
Can I tell you? So on my
But
end,
maybe that's silly.
well, it might be. Who knows? Who knows? But I'll say this. There is a part of me that worries. Well, okay. Some of it's my own personal bias, right? Because I'll tell you, I've noticed like there's now like a bunch of reality shows or HGTV style shows that are like, hey, come check out these tiny homes and couples that might buy tiny homes, right?
Yeah.
And like that's a whole thing. And then you see like, hey, here's a TV thing about how you can convert a shipping container into a house. Or you'll see like ads come up on Instagram, buy a shipping container house, or like here's how to buy plans for your own tiny home on Amazon. And there's a part of me that's like,
oh yeah, I've seen those.
yeah. And there's a part of me that's like, that is a very romantic life. And I'm sure going small is very good for a lot of people who need to declutter their lives in all sorts of ways, both physically and emotionally. But there's also a part of me that feels like, we're kind of starting to be fed a dialogue that we're all gonna feel lucky someday to live in converted shipping containers. Like it's starting to feel a little bit to me like this feels like a weird societal choice where we're starting to get a little bit of what's almost feeling like propaganda that's like, hey, your goal should be to spend a lot of money to live
small.
Come live small. Spend a lot of money to do this hip thing, which is living small.
Come live like a pauper.
Yeah, you can live in a metal box that was used to transport cars from Korea to America, and now it will be your home. Like that feels like a weird readjustment of the American dream to me. So
yeah.
I worry about it. And it doesn't seem like that. So
Yeah.
I got to get that bias out of my head as you and I talk, because I have that in my head.
And I think that there are people like that out there for sure. That are like chasing that dream of what you see on social media. But I think that's in every facet of life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the demon that is social media. But I don't know. So I'm in my I'm 30. I was going to say I'm in my 30s, but I'm 30. And a lot of people my age are, either they were really fortunate that they had the finances or familial support to buy a house like 5 years ago, or they are like drowning in rent payments right now, and like buying a house is so far-fetched. And so I think that that's a big part of where this like dream or like idea comes from, is like, well, if you buy a tiny home, you have your house and you can take it wherever you go, and you don't have then you don't have rent and that kind of thing. And, but that's also like, that's not my situation. And so then I have to think about that too. And like, am I potentially looking at putting myself in debt to live this way?
Right.
It's like, maybe I am. I mean, like I am. And maybe there's a different way to eventually live on this property that and I mean that the place I live isn't terrible. I think I have a bias against it because I didn't like growing up here. It's changed so much. You were actually just here 2 months ago. I think the weather was really crappy, so I think I had called a while back and talked with Andrea, and she said you guys just stayed in the hotel. So, but you guys were here for like a really cool festival, and that's something that it's like things like that I'm like, oh yeah, I do like it here. But then there's the politics of living here that is like, oh, well, maybe not, because if I ever wanted to have another kid, God forbid something bad happened and I had to have medical intervention, then it's scary. It's a scary place to live.
I get it. I'm going to put it on the table and say, you have a quality that and I might be wrong, and I'm not trying to play armchair psychologist here because I really fight against that on the show. But I noticed that like you do have a thing that some callers have, which is that you have a laugh that seems to mask things that you're really concerned about. Like I've noticed that you're like, I don't know if my husband actually wants to do this. Like that's when a laugh comes up, or like,
oh no,
or like I was raised here and I never liked it, and I think I need to flee this reality because I don't feel totally safe. Like, seems like your laugh tends to come up at things that are actually sort of serious sounding. So I want to get to the roots of it, because on one level, this call could just be like, what's it like to convert a bus? But on another, I'm going, this seems like a really massive lifestyle change where there's some uncertainty around it. And you're giggling your way through all the fear.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. That is fair.
How do we feel about this?
Yeah. Well, I think that anyone that has had housing insecurity would feel similarly. You never want to feel like you're going to be without a home. And I mean, I have been very fortunate that I have never been without a home, but it hasn't always been easy. And so I think part of part of the thing with the bus is that I would always have a home because I own it, and it would, that no matter what happens, I would always have a home. And I think that does come from moving a lot, maybe moving a lot as a kid, which I did. I mean, we probably moved every year. And then when I was in college, I lived in a really small town in Northern California that has just awful housing situation. And I think in 1 year that I was living there, I moved like half a dozen times because either the renter was selling the place or the roommates that I had were moving out and they were moving into something smaller or moving in with their significant other or, whatever. But it was a situation that came up very frequently where I was like, oh crap, now I don't have a house. So I think that's probably like a big part of it. Is like this would feel like I just always had a house.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly a huge and important thing. And in a lot of ways, I sit here and I go, and people know if you listen to the show, I'm not a radical thinker at this stage of my life, but I sit here and I go, it's very hard to hear you driving around with your kid in the car going, it is my dream to live in a bus, but also it would mean we always have a place to go. As we do live in a world where, as you say, you're surrounded by big agriculture, which is, again, people who research it, I think, would be shocked to see how over the decades it's gone from farmers farming land that they own and selling crops that they grew to corporate farms leasing out their land to those formerly local farmers who now have no ownership, and now foreign ownership of a lot of farmland in America, which I don't want to demonize foreign companies, but you start to sit there and go, what is this thing where corporations are starting to control the food supply, and you start to think about how some of it is that you grew up
scary.
And that's destabilizing for your sense of safety and comfort, and let alone that, again, we are living in a time when ostentatious billionaires don't pay taxes and give very little back to society as a whole. And the company that owns Walmart are billionaires and their workforce is subsidized by food. They will, in their corporate training, say, here's how you can get government money to supplement the wages that we're not giving you. And I have to sit here and listen. Yeah. And then I have to listen to you with your kid in the car going, at the very least, this gives me the comfort of knowing my family will always have a place to rest our heads. It's sick. It's pretty sick. And that doesn't aim to undercut the side of it that's like, it is a cool dream and it is fun to own a bus. And how rad would that be to go live on a bus for a few years? All that can all be true. But then to hear, when I ask you, like, why do you have a nervous laugh? And you go, at the end of the day, I want to make sure my family always has a place to go. And I sit here and go, and meanwhile, I bet when you were a kid, at least some of those farms were still under the control of actual humans you could look in the eye from time to time. And that we weren't living in a world where it seemed like working people are now being taught how to ask the government for support as part of their training for what should be gainful employment that takes care of them. It's sick and it's scary, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It is. It's scary, and too, as being a parent, which, I'm sure you have this anxious thought too, is what's it going to be like? Like 10, 15 years from now. I mean, if in the last 10 years living where I live, it's changed so dramatically that and so that's, then that opens up the other part of the whole thing, and living in the bus and living on this family property is you know, I think the best thing that we can do in this day and age is grow our own food and live as sustainably off the land as we can. And not to sound like, you know, way, way, way on the end of like a prepper, but I mean, really, I think that's the best thing that we can all do is grow our own food and shop as local as you can. You know, we live in a scary world.
So some of this is the adventure of the bus, and some percentage of it is let's face facts about taking care of ourselves and the people in our inner circle. We got to learn some self-sustenance because you're seeing a world in which that becomes necessary.
Yeah.
What percentage would you say is fun bus adventure, and what percentage would you say is I'm not totally a prepper, but let's face facts?
I'd say 50-50.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd say 50-50.
Now we're getting down to the nuts and bolts of this call. Now we're getting down to the meat of the issue.
We are getting to the nuts and bolts of it. And you know what I just realized is that I have horrible time management skills. And I have to hang up on you. And I don't think you've been hung up on in like forever.
Yeah, it's only happened one other time in the history
but
of
I
the
have to
show.
go to a doctor's appointment.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to go to a doctor's appointment.
Well, go to the doctor's appointment. I want to say on my end, if this got a little too real and you're like, screw this, I do apologize if that is part of this.
No, it didn't. I'm not. It's not part of it. I've been putting off, as a parent, I'm sure you know too, I've been putting off getting reestablished since, you know, I had an OBGYN doctor for the last almost year because I was pregnant. And then you're not pregnant anymore. And that doctor's like, okay, bye. I don't want to see you anymore. And so then I don't have a doctor. And I had a recent family diagnosis on both ends, on my mom's side and my dad's side, that it just, you know, you got to take care of yourself, like you're saying. You just got to make sure that things are good. And so I've canceled this appointment. But I am embarrassed to say how many times already.
No, don't worry. Listen, I remember what it was like when my kid
was got to take care of yourself.
17 months old. Go do your doctor's appointment. We'll have to do a follow-up someday and hear how the bus goes and hear how the
I'd love to do a follow-up from the bus.
Oh, that would be incredible someday. And to see if your husband can stand up straight in the bus, and to see how you all are doing and take care of that little one and enjoy the adventure side of it and enjoy the protecting your family side of it. And this was a fascinating call, and only the second hang up in the history, the 8-year history of the show, which is news in and of itself. I
know. I'm sorry. I totally thought, I was like, oh, no problem. I have a doctor's appointment at 11. Not a problem at all. I'm calling at 10. No. What am I thinking? You're on hold.
No,
Thank you, Chris.
Oh, please. Thank you. Thanks for the call.
It was good to talk to you.
Caller, I have to thank you, and that was fascinating. And I have a feeling there's going to be people with strong opinions on the content of the call itself. I have a feeling there will be people debating the nature of your leaving at the end. A fascinating week in the history of Beautiful Anonymous, and only our second hang-up ever, which is wild. And I'm sure we'll create a lot of chatter and controversy over there in the good old Facebook group. Thanks for calling in. Sincerely, good luck with everything. Thank you to our producer, the High Priestess, Andrea Quinn. Thank you to Shell Shag for our music. go to punchup.live/Chris Gethard if you want to know when I'm on the road. I've got a whole bunch of tour dates happening right now. And if you want to be on the show, but maybe you haven't had good luck getting on, maybe we tape at times that aren't convenient for you, maybe you have a story that hasn't been represented here before, we're all about that. 973-306-4676 is the voicemail line. Call up, let us know what you want to talk about. We'll be in touch. Follow us on Instagram at Beautiful Anonymous Pod, and we have a very lovely Facebook group called Beautiful Anonymous, the community. See you over there.